The album Laminar Flow from musician and visual artist Jenny is a journey of self-awareness. Jenny joins us in studio to share that journey with us. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
So the title of the album, Laminar Flow, what does that come from?
So the origin of that title is because I was just being a human, wasting my time, scrolling through stuff on my phone. And I came across this really interesting little science video that was talking about different ways that water flows. And I guess there's a way called laminar flow. And air can flow this way or water can flow this way. And basically it's just a very smooth, organized, uninterrupted flow where the water actually looks like an ice sculpture. Like it looks like it's not moving at all. And I was so fascinated by this because there was a guy like running his hands through that. And you could actually see at that moment that it was actually flowing. It wasn't an ice sculpture. So I was like, wow, that's so cool. And then they talked about how the other ways that water or air can flow is turbulent flow. So we know when water looks crazy or you're on a plane and the plane's shaking and you're terrified, right? So the laminar flow on the plane is where you're sitting there and the plane's not moving at all. So I thought about this and my artsy side kicked in and I was like, I feel like that. I feel like that's me. I feel like I'm
in regular day or in your creative mode?
I'd say just in life in its entirety, you know, like we're all mixed bags, right? We have emotions and emotions aren't these like neatly packaged little things. They kind of throw us about and they can be turbulent at times. And I know that that goes on for me in my experience, but I have a really smooth and organized way of expressing myself. And that's why I call this album Laminar Flow, because I'm like, that's me. I'm turbulent on the inside and I'm smooth on the outside.
So is it smooth or turbulence that we would get in a song like Arrive?
I would say you get both.
How so?
Because the whole album, and if we're still looking at the whole laminar turbulent thing, the whole album is about duality. And as a human being, we're never just one thing. We're not just good or bad. We're not calm or chaos. So in every song, I tried to be free and allow the songs to flow in a way where there's parts of it where they're just like mellow and there's other parts where it's kind of this organized chaos.
And you describe in the song description for that one, arrival fallacy. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I think the arrival fallacy is the idea that, you know, when I get to my goal, when I get that thing that I'm working so hard for, that award, that degree, whatever it is, this spiritual promised land, I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna have reached everything. And I think the reality is that in our lives we reach those goals and things that we wanted so much years ago, we're there now and we're not happy, we're not satisfied.
So you're doing a lot of searching within that, a lot of feelings that people would be able to relate to.
Yeah.
How important, though, was it to end this journey on a positive note through the record?
It was, I'd say, I didn't intend to end it on a positive note, but it did end on a positive note. And I tend to call it not the end, I call it the ... The positivity in that was something that came afterwards. And I think realizing that there is no end, it is just a ... And living life is about having a certain openness to experience life in its full capacity, the ups and downs, the black, the white, the calm, the chaos, everything. And it's a mystery. You don't know, you can't plan your way through life. So, I think that inherently is positive.
And as you're going through this journey, this mixed bag that ends positively, I mean, these songs, they're more like soundscapes. Tell us a bit about the musical component of it.
Thank you for that question. So I worked so closely with my friend and musician, Alexander David. He's the other half of Genesia Band. They're a duo, couple duo. And he is incredibly talented. He's a guitarist, but he's also a composer, so I worked really closely with him, and I brought forward my ideas. I wrote the songs, the melodies, and I would ask him to help build, like you said, the soundscape for each song. I wanted it to feel cinematic. I wanted someone to listen to it and really feel like they were going on this journey through each song and through the album as a whole.
And how does Indian classical music actually fit into that journey that you want to take people on?
Yeah, it kind of unintentionally fits in there because Indian classical music in itself is not overly planned or formulaic at all. It's very improvised and intuitive. So my rudiments are in Indian classical music, Carnatic music specifically. That's what I learned as a child. So it's kind of in me. It's not something I carried on with for the rest of my life, but when I'm making my music, I'm trying to draw from this most authentic place within myself. And when I do, I find that it really does show up in my music in these subtle ways.
From a musical perspective too, Indian classical music works with microtones, fractions of what you would experience in Western classical music or just in Western music in general.
Yeah.
Did it take a bit of readjusting as you try to Westernize that sound?
Not at all. Not at all, because for me, like I said, my rudiments, I was a child when I was learning Indian classical music. So in me being a full-grown adult now, making my own music and trying to draw, like I said, from an authentic place, I feel like some of those elements touch my music, but I would say consciously the music that I chose in my life to listen to and love was R&B, jazz.
Not necessarily microtonal in nature.
Not at all. You know, when I was like as a child, I was very small, and I remember taking an interest in Indian classical music, but you don't know what you're getting into when you ask your parents for lessons, right? You go in and you're like, oh, I hate this. You know, so I
because your parents are making you do it.
It's like, let's be real here, I hated it, right? But I think the appreciation I have for it now is that I see how it like shows up in my current life, because you know, I'm Canadian, I've lived here my whole life, as much as I've grown up in a Sri Lankan Tamil household, right?
Yeah, it's part of who you are.
Totally.
Well, congratulations on the release of this project. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me to share. I'm so pleased and grateful.